Well, thank you. That's gorgeous. Thank you all very, very much, and thank you, Prime Minister. I'm not sure if we still. I can't remember. I can never remember if we continue to call you that or not. Right Honourable, for that very, very kind introduction. Thank you to everybody at Eve for this amazing honor. And as well, thank you to Minister McLean for her wonderful words earlier this morning. For those of you who heard them, this is going to sound a little bit similar, I'm just saying. But, we're all about, delivering a message in our world. Anyway, it is truly an honor to be able to share the stage with so many incredible women. And of course, with Canada's first female Prime Minister. You are yourself a trailblazer and an inspiration to all of us. Before I go any further, let's just give her a round of applause. And to be clear, I didn't quite say I see you hanging around a lot. I think it was maybe a touch more respectful for that, but you never know. Anyway, as well, before I go any further, I would, of course, like to as well acknowledge that we are gathered here today on traditional Treaty 7 territory, and I'd also like to acknowledge the Métis people of Alberta who share a very deep connection with this land. And I want to, as well, thank everyone involved with Equal Voice for everything that you do to raise women up, to fight for women's equality, and for recognizing women who make a difference. Our country is truly fortunate to have you. And let me just say that watching the video from Daughters of the Vote, it just made me quite verklempt, really. It was such a beautiful, beautiful sight, and I want to thank you so much for creating that event, and I hope you do many more of them, and I can't wait to see a House of Commons that actually looks like that the rest of the days that they sit. And so to Equal Voice, I just truly, truly want to give you my appreciation. And if we could just get one more round of applause for Equal Voice and all the work that it does. So on a personal level, I want to say I'm very, very grateful for this recognition. And I'm really very honored to accept it, and to accept it on behalf of our entire team. Everyone in this room knows that with organizations as large as government, every achievement that you have is the result of teamwork. And so I humbly accept this on behalf of my colleagues in Cabinet and my colleagues in caucus and all the very many people who have been part of my motivation and support. On a personal note, as it relates to motivation and support, although my mother, we talk about my father, and of course we all know or many people here know the story, and of course I couldn't have lived in that environment without him being an incredible inspiration. But my mother is also an inspiration to me, or was an inspiration to me. She passed away almost 20 years ago now. And there were, a few things about which she and I disagreed. To be quite honest, she was a bit old-fashioned on several fronts. She would actually not ever have referred to herself as a feminist, as much as we would debate that. But what she was she was uncompromising in her quest to challenge poverty and to pursue economic equality for all. And she didn't just do that in Alberta. She did that everywhere. And she taught me the phrase and the value of the phrase, speak truth to power. And she taught that to me at a very young age. Unfortunately for her and my father, I then exercised that lesson, mostly with them as I grew up. But at the end of the day, it served to be truly inspiring for me. These days, I'm very grateful to work with very talented and committed women. As of Tuesday, and you've heard about this now, women make up over half of our cabinet. I believe this is now a first in Canadian history. I've been debating with people from Quebec over who got the gender balance cabinet first in the country, and so it's very possible that they did it first. But the majority, I think, now is Alberta's. So we own that in Alberta, and I'm very proud of that. Ours is also the first cabinet in Alberta in which, well, maybe in Canada, I'm not sure, but definitely in Alberta, in which 2 cabinet ministers have given birth while in office. As many of you may know, we have another cabinet minister, our Minister of Justice, Kathleen Ganley, who is now expecting. And from what we've been able to determine, Minister Ganley will be the first Attorney General in Canada to give birth while in office. And I have to say that cabinet meetings take on a whole new meaning when our next generation is right there in your arms, literally drooling on briefing notes as you have conversations about, tax rates and things like that. It's pretty big. As you can imagine, having so many young mothers in the legislature has led to a very quick update of antiquated House rules designed in a time and age when women weren't even sitting in the legislature. Never mind the idea of women breastfeeding in the legislature, which we do now. Modernizing our workplace in the legislature has made us all more aware of how pervasive and deeply rooted the discrimination is that we still face as women. So we are doing what we can to address that too, in the public service and in policies on income supports, childcare, domestic assault, and more. For the first time, the Alberta Public Service is led by a woman in the position of Deputy Minister of Executive Council. And under her leadership, the Alberta Public Service is expanding its commitment to diversity, acceptance, and workplace support. Because if we can't do it in our own workplace, how can we expect others to do it? So equality is truly a major focus for us. And it's the reason we put a major focus on doing things that make life better, safer, and more equal for women in Alberta. Because when we make life better for women, we make life better for everyone. Rosemary Brown, who many of you may know as Canada's first Black female member of a provincial legislature, and the first woman to run for leadership of a federal political party, and also, I might add, a New Democrat. What she said was, until all of us have made it, none of us have made it. And as everyone in this room knows full well, all of us have not yet made it. And we know that women face inequalities in all facets of life, especially at work. More women work in Alberta than in any other province, yet hold only 7% of seats on corporate boards. More women are getting post-secondary education than men, yet work in lower-paying jobs in which they hit a ceiling. Some of you may know about the recent study that showed Canadian men are 3 times more likely to move up into senior corporate positions than women. So the fact is, we've got a bit of a ways to go before all of us, in Rosemary Brown's words, have made it. And that's why we are working so hard to make life better for women here in Alberta. Not only is it the right thing to do, but I believe to my core that it is the thing that will make our province stronger. So if you need an argument for that oppositional, little bit grumpy family member that you might run across at the next holiday dinner, I don't know, let's call him, how about Uncle Jason? Grandpa Brian, Cousin Doug, whatever the name happens to be, let's tell those boys this. When women succeed, their families succeed. And when families succeed, communities succeed. And so does our entire economy and our entire province. Advancing women's equality is not only fair and just, it is good for our community and it is good for our economy. In fact, advancing gender equality at work, many people suggest, could boost Alberta's GDP alone by a further 6%. So the fact of the matter is that making life better for women really does make life better for everyone. So with that goal in mind, to make life better for Albertans, I'd like to take a few minutes to tell you about the very real and concrete changes that we've made to advance women's equality. Let's start with decision making. We've touched on it a little bit, but right from the start, we put women at the heart of every decision we make. Like I said, we created a gender slightly imbalanced cabinet, a cabinet that also reflects many, not all, we have work to do, but many of the different ethnicities, sexual orientations, and stages of life that make today's Alberta such an incredible, diverse, and vibrant place. We also, as you know, created Alberta's first standalone Ministry of the Status of Women, ably led by Minister McLean. And to bring even more diversity to decision-making, we've changed our board recruitment process to make it easier for women to put forward their names to be leaders in our province. In 2015, when we first got elected, women held only 32% of seats on Alberta's public boards and agencies. Today, I'm happy to report, just as of a cabinet meeting last week, that under our leadership, women now hold 50% of those positions. Interestingly, 46% are held by men and 4% are held by people who choose not to identify one way or the other. It's the kind of positive change that happens when a diverse group of people make decisions. In such a short space of time, Alberta's boards and agencies already better reflect the rich diversity of our province. As I've said, we still have more work to do, but I really believe we're making progress. And it's only with deliberate action like this that we can open boardroom doors and actively recruit qualified people to take their rightful seats at the table. To help even more women into leadership positions, we've also asked the Alberta Securities Commission to help increase the number of women in corporate boardrooms and in corner offices. As of last year, the Alberta Securities Commission adopted a new rule that requires Alberta-based companies listed on major stock exchanges, such as the TSE, to disclose the number of women on their boards and in executive management, and to describe any related policies or targets that are focused on that. This new disclose or explain rule is about forcing the issue a little bit and shattering the corporate glass ceiling. And let me just say that this was not something that our government came up with. There was a number of leaders within the corporate sector who came to us with this plan, and I thank them for that work. We've also launched a new mentorship pilot for Calgary women looking to advance their careers. And we've launched the Ready for Her campaign last year to support women to run for local office. So these are all things that we can do to promote the opportunities that exist for women. Now, in addition to working to increase representation across government and society in those decision-making decisions, we've also introduced a number of new programs, policies, and laws that are focused on fixing problems that we know women face disproportionately. So we're working to close the wage gap, for instance, by increasing the minimum wage to $15 an hour, because we know that the majority of minimum wage earners are women. In fact, of the 300,000 Albertans who work for less than $15 an hour right now, over 60% of them are women. 40% are the primary income earners in their home, and 35% of them have children. There is no doubt that a higher minimum wage makes life better for thousands and thousands of women and their families. We also created the new Alberta Child Benefit and enhanced the Alberta Family Employment Tax Credit to help lower-income families make ends meet and support the well-being of their children. These are programs that put thousands of dollars into the pockets of women and families who need that money most. It has been called one of the most significant anti-poverty measures we've introduced and one of the most significant in Alberta in over a generation. And I'm proud of that. We're also piloting a $25 a day childcare program, which is making childcare more affordable and enabling more women to join the workforce. This past year, we've expanded that program to more childcare centers. There is still a lot more work to do on this, but I know that we're going to get it right. And I will say that at a couple of those childcare centers, some families didn't even know that their childcare bill was going down. I was told of a story at one daycare. An Indigenous woman, parenting alone, came to the center to pay her monthly bill. She didn't know that her childcare center was one of the ones that was getting this funding, and she had no idea that she was going to get that kind of break. And so when she saw her bill, okay, women leaders get verklempt every now and then, just so you know. This is a new thing. Everyone needs to be part of it. Anyway, but when she saw her bill, she was so surprised and excited that she did break into tears. And you know, the fact is that there are a lot of people out there who think that this kind of help for working women and families doesn't really make a difference. But I know, and I think most of us in this room know, that it really does make a difference. And it's this kind of support that are going to give people the foundation on which they can grow their lives and grow their opportunities and create their own equality. We're also continuing our work with freezing tuition and for post-secondary students to ensure that higher education remains affordable and accessible for those who are doing that work of growing their own equality. We've also made practical changes to protect and improve things that make a difference in the day-to-day lives of women. We're building more options and supports to enable our seniors to live safely and with dignity, including more care beds and new supports for seniors, which, as many of us in this room know, will help women and families who are caught in that sandwich of duties between caring for children and for aging parents. And with our recent changes to the Employment Standards Codes, we are better protecting women's jobs for when they want to take maternity leave. Before, women in Alberta needed to work for a year to qualify for that leave. Now, with our changes, women can qualify for maternity leave after 90 days. Moreover, a woman's job was not protected before if she needed to care for a sick family member, and now it is. One thing I'm especially proud of is a policy brought forward by a very fierce young Calgary MLA by the name of Deborah Drever. As a result of her work, we amended the Residential Tenancies Act to allow tenants affected by domestic violence to break a lease early without financial penalty, making it easier for them to leave and find safety. We also increased funding for women's shelters by $15 million to help women fleeing violence, an increase that the community had been waiting for 30 years. Each of these practical changes is helping to make life better for Albertans, and we will not be stopping there. Because, as I've said, we still need to do better. More women have declared or did declare their candidacy for municipal elections this year. And thanks to organizations like Equal Voice, Ask Her YYC, the Women's Advocacy Voice of Edmonton, and our own Ministry of the Status of Women, we've encouraged more women to run, provided more resources and training, and I hope the inspiration. But I'm sure you'll all agree we can and must still do better. There are deeply held patterns and traditions that are keeping women out of the debate and out of the positions they have every right and every ability to hold. So what should we do? For starters, we carry on with events like this. We carry on with the programs that we've introduced, programs introduced with the support of so many of you here today. And we continue to force the issue. As leaders engaging in political discussion, all of us have a responsibility to do more to improve the tone, the discourse, and to engage with people with whom we disagree respectfully. Now, we should never, ever shy away from disagreeing with one another. Quite honestly, it's healthy. Vibrant political debate is healthy. Maybe it's just going back to those family dinners, but I just think it's good for everybody. And moreover, we shouldn't be afraid to embrace our partisanship because, quite frankly, that too is a vibrant part of our political system in Canada. But even there, we must do it respectfully. We need to talk about issues and choices. We need to talk about evidence and policy. And we need to talk about how that affects the people we seek to represent. We should not be making it about name-calling. We should not be making it about character assassination. We should not allow ourselves to be part of an environment that discourages women from entering public life. So my friends, when we talk about how far we've come in less than 2.5 years, and when we think about the tangible, practical changes we've made to help women in our province, I can tell you, it just makes us want to achieve more. And as we draw on the examples set by incredible Canadian women, like Rosemary Brown, like Kim Campbell, and like each and every one of you here for inspiration. There is much that is left for us to do, and that work, frankly, won't ever be done by any of us, men or women, acting alone. It will be done by all of us, men and women, coming together, backing one another up, and making the changes that we know are right and just and long overdue. My friends, standing here looking out at all of you, there is nobody else I would rather be working alongside than each and every one of you on this work. I want to just thank you once again for this amazing and incredible honor. I want to thank you all for your advocacy and for your support. And I want to thank you for everything that you have done to help make life better for women in Alberta. Thank you very much.